Welcome to the Amplifying Leadership podcast, where we dedicate to sharing leadership stories, challenges, tips, and wins. My name is Tara Lehman, and I'm a partner, coach, and consultant at Twin Life Coaching and Business Services, of which Amplifying Leadership is our division. For our leadership clients, we support you with tools, coaching, learning, and information, of course, through our leadership services. To learn more about us and our community, please visit amplifyingleadership.ca. Today, I am welcoming Denicia Hilton Harper. Denicia is joining us today with a different perspective and how holistic health and leadership connect to bringing your authentic leadership self out. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You bet. I can't wait for our conversation.
It's going to
Why
be
don't
juicy.
Good. Why don't we start with just a little bit about you and maybe what your leadership story is?
So I actually started out, well, I don't want to say start, but right now, most recently, it's in Eastern medicine. So
Oh,
studying,
okay. Yeah.
studying and practicing as a doctor of Oriental medicine, and then
Mm-hmm.
adding on the holistic well-being consultant part.
Mm-hmm.
I actually right out of school started my business.
Okay.
So in a way, I'm like, oh, you kind of just leadership right then
You
and
do.
there,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yes. Business owners have to be the leader, right?
yeah. So that's how I like, got started in like a very overt way.
Mm-hmm.
There's other times throughout my life where I was a supervisor while
Mm-hmm.
in college or supervising interns when I was actually at one position. So there's
Mm-hmm.
those little inklings of leadership that was there leading up until this point. But
Mm-hmm.
this, I want to say, is where it becomes the most vulnerable and the
Yes.
most honest and the
Yes.
most authentic leadership styles that come
I
out.
agree. I agree.
Is, is definitely when you're running your own business for sure.
Mhm, mhm. Absolutely agree with that. And most small business owners are going to say, heck yes. So, as you began and went through your leadership journey, then feel free to pick whichever one works for you. What has been the biggest obstacle that you see as a leader for yourself in your journey?
Oh, I'll say I kind of cheated a little bit, but then again, I'm like, did I really though? Because I didn't see it at that time either. But I'll say that starting the business and then, I mean, so many tools that are out there, right? Like
Mhm,
so many resources. I mean, it's there, right?
mhm.
Like from entrepreneur centers and like all of the startup
Yeah,
stuff and
yeah.
everything, they're there.
Mhm.
And I was like, sweet, let me jump in, like
Yeah.
let me learn like some of the stuff. Cause I will admit, I kind of just was like, I mean, you just look for a place, right? And then I just go and I just start telling people like, hey, this is what I do. So like that's what I did, right? But the thing is that at the same time, and this is why I say I think I might have cheated a little bit, but I think it's more because I had a different perspective. At the same time, though, it was like, whoa, okay, so I'm learning all of these different ways to start a business, to build a business, right?
Mhm,
And I'm the one that's operating it, like I'm the one that's behind it.
mhm,
And yet, our holistic health actually is not even being taken into consideration in
mhm,
any of the trainings and any of, like, say you get financial capital support or something like that, right?
mhm,
Like in those, and I'm like, and this is not like a dig at them. It's like, I love that these aspects are made available.
mhm. Yes.
It's just that at the same time, and I learned this through my own trial and error, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to try this. Let me try this model. Let me try this method.
Mhm,
Right. And then fortunately, because of my background, I could see where things weren't quite lining up
mhm,
for my style, because like some things would be going off with my body, like whether my cycle got thrown off or
mhm,
whether there were certain types of headaches or certain types of digestive stuff going on.
mhm.
And so those then became clues for me that something's not exactly syncing with my core, right?
Right. Yeah.
So like I would say that that would be the biggest obstacle, and
Mhm.
even just I don't know about you, but when I'm in these other groups, like with other entrepreneurs, you hear a lot of the similar stories of like,
Mhm.
oh, some of them started their business because of health issues, or
Mhm.
even as they're in their business, then these health issues arise. And then, but there's nothing that's actually sinking. It's like, I see it once again, the
Yeah.
cheating perspective. It's like, because I hear all these other, I see the other things and I'm like, ooh, but they don't know that it's connected. Like, oh,
Yes.
I wonder how and that's what kind of led me to where I'm at now, like
Mhm.
how can I spread this goodness to for
Yes.
people to see that like the way that you lead impacts your holistic health, but your holistic health also impacts the way that you lead. And
Absolutely.
so we need to just like create and bridge it. Like, and so
Mhm.
it's and from the being proactive. So
Mhm.
like now we're seeing pop-ups of mental health as an entrepreneur because it's in response
So
to just so
important.
much of that's happening, or mental health as a leader in your company, like to support the leader, but then the leader to
Mhm.
support your team.
Yep.
And so like
Mhm.
you're seeing it starting to come in, but once again, it's still not exactly like connected. It's more of like, hey,
Yes.
just be aware that mental health stuff is going on,
Yes. Yes,
but we
I
need
hear
to get to the
you.
nitty-gritty of what
Yeah.
can we really do to change it.
Yes. On a previous episode that I did with my sister, we talked about self-care for leaders. And even in my
Mm,
foundations of leadership workshops, one there's a couple, like one is about stress, one is about self-care, because it is so important. You can't lead if you're not taking care of yourself first, right? So
right.
I love the connection that you make for leaders, because it's so important. All
Thank
have
you.
to lead, but we can do that effectively if we take care of ourselves too.
Yes. I have a question, Tara. Have you ever
Yes.
like heard of the definitions? This is one of my favorite definitions
Hmm.
of leader is actually to put oneself first.
Yes, I have. I talk about it. Even
Sweet.
at home, you have to put yourself first, right? If you think about family, put yourself first so you can take care of everybody else. Yes, absolutely. And I
Yes.
love it. I love it. So,
Synchronicity.
yes, absolutely. So, we know that we've talked a little bit about this and about self-care and leaders' own, health. And now that you mentioned, that we have to take care of ourselves first, what are your thoughts about how some leaders might be able to do that? What are some of the
Mm,
steps to help put yourself first or to take care of your self-care? What are your thoughts on that?
So I would say, okay, and some might find this very difficult to do, but you can do it. Okay. I
Hmm.
know you can because you have the ability to schedule everything else. So
Uh-huh.
in the
Uh-huh.
schedule, like
I know where you're going. Say
it's
it.
like if you can schedule, like I would block off let's just say 2 days, right? And in the 2 days, and this might be a little bit more nuanced and new to some people, but I promise you there's so much evidence that this that we're influenced by it that you
Hmm.
it's enough that it's like really pay attention to it. If you can somehow some way block this time around a new moon, I would
Hmm.
do it. Or even if you can notice like a certain type of season that you like, that
Hmm.
it's like, oh, you just kind of become so vibrant and like, yay, then do it then too. If you can block those 2 days, the reason why I say that is because for that time period, it's like you need to separate out of the environments that you're used to being in. So
Hmm.
it's not even like to be at home. Like
Hmm.
unless you're possibly by yourself, but I wouldn't even do that. Like if you really can just like go somewhere else to separate yourself from your current environment. Why? Because we're influenced by our environments.
Hmm.
And so what we're trying to do is like remove those. And then during that time period, just really sit and ponder and like explore what would actually be so much fun. Like, what would I actually really enjoy? Right. And what are some aspects? And I mean, it doesn't even have to be grandiose. It does not have to be like, oh, I want to go skiing,
Hmm.
and for some that is true. Yes. It's for the others that's like, that doesn't have to. It could be something as simple as like, I love cooking,
Hmm.
but you realize it's just not happening as much or something like that, right? Or like, I love just trying out a new like book club or a spoken
Mhm.
word or something like that. Like something that you really enjoy and you feel like when you're doing it, you can totally get lost in it. When
Mhm.
you can identify that, right? Like, and then take that and be like, all right, now where can I build this in?
Mhm.
And start like somewhat semi regularly.
Mhm.
Because then what's going to happen is once you go back to your environments, remember those people are still accustomed to what had happened before you left.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
like, so like when you get back into those environments, it can be really easy to just like slip into
Mhm.
that old patterning. But, like, before you got back, you already, like, set it up so that you
Yeah.
did some research and found a cooking class, and
Mhm.
you went ahead and RSVP'd for it, or, you made plans with someone else and you put it on your calendar, like, that kinda thing, right? And then as you continue to do it and it's like you get those endorphin rushes and
Mhm.
your dopamine starts getting it kicking in, then you start to realize, like, "Oh, I am, like, more calm.
Mhm.
I'm enjoying my life more. My life feels like it has more meaning even outside of like my business, outside of my family, but it's me,
Mhm.
like genuinely me.
Mhm.
Then you're going to start, like, the brain's going to start connecting in a different way. And now
Mhm.
you're going to continue doing it and you're going to keep building on it and building on it and building on
Yeah.
it. And then you'll start to see that it's just going to, like, you're going to see the energy of other people around you starting to change as well. But it started from within you. And
Mhm.
then it, like, spidey senses, like, out,
Yeah.
and just
For
this
those of us who
major
can't
ripple.
see, she's got her fingers flittering. It's
Oh,
really,
yeah.
it's kind of cool. So I do like that. I love the idea that you say do this separately from your current space, whatever that space is for you. Even if it means you go, and if you don't have 2 days, like you take a few hours and go somewhere else, like a park or just somewhere by a lake or somewhere that isn't your space, because you're right, you think differently. And
Mhm.
something I add to my clients is when you come, for example, with using your example of going away, when you come back and you've scheduled something in your calendar, you have to treat it like it is the most important doctor's appointment you've ever had. You've been waiting for a year and you have to keep it. There is no erasing your
Yep.
commitment to yourself for that hour or day or vacation, which a lot of leaders don't take. And I highly encourage that they must.
Mhm.
But yes, I love it. And I think, don't ever come back and fall into those bad habits that you're talking about. Keep those commitments to yourself. And if it
Yeah.
helps to write it down, put it in pen in a written day planner. I don't know what you got to do, but you don't cancel it. That I love that. That's just
Even for
awesome.
those who might have a VA or some type of
Yes.
EA or something, you even tell them. So this is how you build your support, like, for
Mm-hmm.
yourself with a very small step. You tell them, yes, this was on my calendar. Do not allow anyone else, including me, to cancel it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way you have, like, at least you got someone that has your back that's like, I'm not supposed to actually move
Yeah.
this.
The
And like,
accountability piece, the accountability and
yeah.
support, huge, huge, huge. And I always, as I mentioned, tell leaders take vacation. And you should have probably been able to give enough or delegate enough or trained enough that you can take vacation and only be there for what I would call 911 emergency type thing. So someone quit on or the accident,
Mhm.
whatever, right? Like you need that break. So I love it. I love how you tell people to get away where and if possible, and then commit to yourself afterwards. I love it. So when after we're talking about all of that, I want to kind of go back to what you feel might be the biggest part of leadership when it comes to leading effectively, besides what the key points that we've talked about so far. What other biggest parts of leadership need to happen for both the connection of our own health, but also leading effectively as well?
I'm uh, I have a couple of things that popped up and I'm
Mhm.
like, and I don't want to use it in like such a trendy way. um, but it's almost like it's compassion that really stuck out.
Mhm.
Um, and the thing is I feel like as you shift into more and more of expressing, like, so you're discovering who you are, right?
Mhm.
More authentically. And then not only discovering it because that is purely mental, but like
Mhm.
actually expressing and being it is a whole nother ball
Mhm.
game, right?
Yeah.
Um, what happens in that transition for yourself is like you start developing compassion even for yourself.
Mhm.
And then as you start to develop the compassion for yourself, that compassion starts actually going outward to others.
Mhm.
And so like I say that because then as you're leading these teams, the teams are also like we're talking about environment, right? Like
Mhm.
it's realizing that sure, an office space, including virtual office spaces, is an environment, but you yourself are an environment. And oftentimes leaders are like, it's just me and I'm giving out,
Mhm.
right? And so some might fall into the trap of like, oh, I'm just receiving my filling my cup or whatever
Mhm.
from my mentors or from my
Mhm.
superior if I have like a board or something like that. But actually, your team is also feeding like off of you. They're filling you. You're receiving and responding from them as well.
Mhm.
And so
Yes.
it's kind of like as you exude this compassion for yourself, allowing yourself to like laugh at some mistake that might have happened,
Yes. Yeah.
realizing that you even changed, right? And so
Mhm.
it's like, well, shoot, yeah, I did change. Oh, guess what? People on your team can change as well.
Yes.
Right? And then because then as they start doing, say, potentially so you know how I was saying the discovering is really mental, but the
Yep.
expressing
Mhm.
is more physical and action, right? So even with a team, as they are acting, as they are actively doing their tasks, their duties, their roles, and all of that jazz, guess what's happening? Simultaneously, they're discovering more about themselves.
Mhm.
So that's going to give you insight is if
Mhm.
they are welcome
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
space is created to understand that they too are learning about themselves and then they're gaining this insight, you as the leader, the compassion can show in
Mhm.
allowing them to speak that, to share that, including, yeah, I this aspect of the project, I really like, oh, I went all in, jammed on it. Like what may seem like it took a long time, quote unquote,
Mhm.
might actually be them in flow. So
Mhm.
that let you know that that was a strength of theirs in that
Mhm.
aspect, right? And then at the same token, oh, they may have struggled with something. It's like, all right, sweet. Like now what do we do with
Mhm.
that? Like as they themselves learn this about themselves and they're evolving, their position evolving, or their
Mhm.
role into the environment is evolving.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
then like then I feel like if we can open that up and
Mhm.
welcome
Yes.
that, that's how I see, like, diversity playing out as well,
Yeah. Mhm.
like, allowing that to happen because guess what happens? If you don't do it, you're sitting on gold
Yes. I
that
100% agree.
you're sitting on gold that could quite possibly be the next product innovation or be
Mhm.
the next like efficiency or productivity idea, like whatever it might be, but they don't feel comfortable or welcome to evolve in
Mhm.
themselves, which shows up in their role within the
Mhm.
business or company.
Yeah, I love it. It's about leading by example, right? If you're willing to be empathetic and you're vulnerable around them, they're going to feel more comfortable, welcome, included, heard, all those things that you alluded to as well. And which all leads to being an inclusive leader and having an
Mhm.
inclusive workforce, which is very important when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, of course. So yes, I love it. I love it. The lead by example is something that a lot of people talk about, but not all leaders do, and it's something that they absolutely need to. If you expect your employees, for example, to show up to a meeting on time and show their respect for everybody, then you do the same thing, right? That allows everybody to feel more comfortable, respected, heard, welcomed, included, and you get much better teamwork from that. So I love that conversation. So
Yeah.
before we close up today, is there anything else that you wanted to share with our leaders out there that could be beneficial to them when it comes to growing their team or their own self as a leader?
I would say honor the process,
Mm-hmm.
realizing that there is evolution for sure,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like I think if you can be open to seeing that happening, to seeing that there is this expansion and this, well, not even expansion. I
Mm-hmm.
do want to say evolution instead. Um, I neglect to use words like or try to not to. My languaging is changing about
Mm-hmm.
like expansion and all of that because there's a implied judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And so then even when you use the word growth, there's like an implied judgment that there's like this big whatever it's supposed to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then when we do that, we make it a little bit more harder for ourselves and a little bit more pressure. And then
Okay,
therefore
yes.
we're creating stress, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that that would be my takeaway would be like
Mm-hmm.
just honoring that there is going to be an evolution, and it's just more of, how aware are you of it? And then how
Mm-hmm.
intentional are you with it as well to grow in that compassion, to grow in your perfection. I call it perfection. It is the root meaning of perfect is whole and complete.
Mm-hmm.
And so to realize that you are whole and complete now, like can help liberate you from these added pressures or imposter syndrome or burning
Mm-hmm.
out and like all of that is like, this is you right here, right now. And that's it, just right here, right now.
Yeah.
And evolve
Yeah.
from there.
And be patient with it too, because every
Yeah.
change that we make in ourselves or even in a team takes time. And we need to be patient and allow ourselves to go through all the stages that we may need to go through as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Thank you for an awesome conversation. So, if our audience wanted to learn more about you or reach out, is there a way that they can do that?
Oh, most definitely. You'll definitely want to check out my website, which is
Okay.
it's joindenicea.com. So it's JOINDENICEA.com. It's kind of like a one pager of like, here's
Mhm.
what's most up to date, like what's going on and all of that jazz.
Awesome.
So I would definitely connect there.
Great information. Thank you. So, thank you also to our listeners. I hope you're able to take a couple takeaways from this conversation today. If you are new to leadership or even a seasoned leader who knows that leadership coaching, consulting, and workshops are the way to grow on your leadership journey, or maybe you just want to be a guest on my podcast, feel free to reach out to me at tara@twinlifecoaching.ca. Of course, if you would like to find out more about our leadership services, including our Amplifying Leadership community, please visit amplifyingleadership.ca, a Twin Life Coaching and Business Services division. Until next time, please be safe and be an amazing leader or leader to be.